I realized as a boy mom, I need to be honest with Tony. From the very start, even while he was in my belly, I've always been very honest with Tony. I raised him with the reality of the world instead of shielding him from it. I want him to know his truth so that no one is able to distort that. I saw a post of a 9-year-old being pregnant in General Santos City, and this is what reinforced in me as a mom that what I am doing is right. Paminaw. If you are honest with your children with the reality of the world, you are preparing them for it. If you do not shield them and are overly conservative, you are doing your children a favor by preparing them for the real world. I was raised very sheltered and very conservative. I did not have a parent who was straightforward with me as to how hard life is. And I do understand my parents in that regard, and I do understand that they wanted what was best for me. But now as a mom, and with the generation of young people that I see, and with the reality of the world we have now, I will not do what they did to me. My reason for it is life is different. Young people are different. And with the proliferation of technology and social media, if I don't teach Tony the reality of the world at home, he's going to get it somewhere and he's not going to have the reality the way he deserves to have it. The 9-year-old in General Santos City is not my child. Therefore, she is not my business. But my son is. And that's why for me, I never want to distort the reality towards Tony. As early as now, he knows the struggle of being a single mom, of deciding to have him, everything I have to go through. Tony is present and aware. For those of you who say that, oh my God, hindi siya makakaintindi because it's too early, he's only 5. No. If you raise your child with the reality of the world in mind, you are preparing him to not be naive. You are preparing him to be independent and capable. And this is for boy moms like me. For girl moms, it's a different way of communicating because I don't want to raise an overly sheltered baby girl if ever God gives me one. Because for my part, since I'm raising a boy, I really make him understand how life is, that it isn't easy, that he should be careful. And as early as now, obviously, he knows he's got a thingy that's different looking from mine. Aside from protecting him from abuse by teaching him what to do and what not to do, and what other people should never do to him, I also teach him and make him understand that, number one, he needs to be wise with his choices. And no, I don't talk to him about sex just yet because, of course, he's only 5. But I make him understand quite early that as parents, now he has me and Ed, that it ain't easy to raise a child. That the government is not supposedly to be blamed if you have a child. And that Tony should work hard for him to earn his keep. Yes, at 5, we teach him that. At 5 years old, he is being taught how to be financially responsible and aware that he may have money, but he can't just inherit that so easy. When he saw that pregnant girl on the photo in General Santos City, I made him realize that that is one thing that he should never do. Get a girl pregnant. And of course, Tony had that puzzled look on his face. And I made him understand this. Because of course, as early as now, Tony refers to other girls he finds pretty as his girlfriends. And I make him understand the difference between a girlfriend in a relationship and a girl that's a friend. Obviously, I make Tony understand that he can't have more than one girlfriend. But obviously, that's a conversation he has to have with his dad. But since I want to raise Tony in such a way that both girls, boys, bakla, tomboys can be safe around him, because that's the kind of child I want to raise. At the same time, I want a child who is aware Not just self-aware, but aware that his actions have consequences. And as early as now, I don't want him to be shielded away from the reality of the world. Whether it's his truth about his life and where he came from and who I am as his mother. Because I can't really lie to my own son about who I am. Because he's gonna figure me out. He's pretty intelligent. He got that from me. So when he saw that little girl, I still look at her as a little girl being pregnant. I told him, the boy that got her pregnant is 12 years old. And when you are a little bit older than 5 years old, I will make you understand how that works. Because we're still trying to navigate teaching Tony what it's like to both have a mama and papa and what relationship we have, because he's kind of confused because he's never had a papa before. He doesn't understand the difference between boyfriend, husband, and papa. And that's up to me to educate him. Not up to Ed, because Ed, as much as I really do love him for trying, he's never been a papa. He didn't have a papa growing up. And he's still navigating being a husband. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle that I have to honor because I chose this. I chose to have Tony and I chose to have my husband. So the reality is this. Be honest. Always talk to your children in such a way that you make them understand that life is not easy. And only that making this reality a part of your daily routine will raise them to be stronger, more capable, and that you give them the capacity not to think like they're in a fairy tale, because life is not a fairy tale. The reason that I've seen that this generation is weaker, because we tend to shield them from discipline, number one. Number two, we shield them from uncomfortable situations and conversations. And we think that the reality is the same as it was when we were growing up, when it's not. Kids these days have access to the internet. And the internet is a pretty dark place. So if you don't spend time parenting your child, the same one that you carried for 9 months and is now raising, you're going to be raising a problem for society to deal with. And since I made the very conscious decision of making Tony, it is my responsibility to raise him in such a way that he's never going to be someone else's problem, because he is mine to begin with. And that is why I want him to learn things in a different way. That's why, number one, he knows so early that Santa isn't real, that the tooth fairy isn't real, and that fairy tales don't exist in my son's life, because I tell him how it is in real life. I tell him what it's like to be a good son, to be a good dad, and what it means to be a good man. Regardless of whatever Tony decides to be when he grows up, but while he is with me, my influence as his mother is integral and important. And that is why his view of reality is not distorted. It is straight up, it is frank, and I always make him understand that his happiness is important, that he is allowed to have feelings even if he's a boy, and that communicating these feelings is important so that he doesn't hurt anybody in his life, whether it's now or in the future. Because our little boys should be raised in such a way that they know how to respect themselves and others. That they are raised in such a way that toxic masculinity should never exist. And that in such a way, we need to raise our little boys to be able to lead and be led if they meet stronger people than them. Teaching Tony to be independent, capable, smart, intelligent, and loving is my responsibility. It should be yours as a parent too. Ingat! Mwah.